Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very excited to welcome you to the first Bicycle webinar of 2023. My name is Mike Stromer. I'm the CMO for Bicycle. I'm located here in New York and have spent the past 25 years in senior leadership, technology, product, and marketing roles, most recently as CPO for JetBlue Airways. I met Bhaskar and the Bicycle team at JetBlue, was very impressed with the product, and decided to assist as an advisor and now in an operating role. It looks like we've got terrific participation on the attendee side today, across the globe from San Francisco to New York to India, across multiple disciplines and verticals. I see technology, data, and a few revenue leaders across healthcare, travel, retail, and more. The title of the discussion today is How to Transform Your Business Using Real-Time Data. The goal is to have a great dialogue on event-based architecture, real-time data strategies, all with the goal of increasing revenue, customer satisfaction, and cost savings. We also would like to take the opportunity to demo the Bicycle platform and discuss some of the use cases in production. We've got a great lineup of speakers today from the Bicycle team. We've got Bhaskar, our CEO, Rajiv, our CTO, and Nishant, our head of product. We're also really excited to have our special guest, Sachin, VP of Data and Marketing Technology at Priceline, one of our great customers, to discuss his perspective on the space. First up today is Bhaskar Sunkara. Bhaskar is the founder and CEO of Bicycle. Prior to starting Bicycle, he was founding CTO of AppDynamics, a popular APM solution which Cisco acquired in 2017. Bhaskar resides in San Francisco. Without further ado, I'd like to hand it to Bhaskar to get us started today. Thank you.
It's been terrible weather in San Francisco, Mike, so I'll get started. So welcome everyone. Really appreciate your time. We're excited to talk about what we built at Bicycle. And also show you a demo. So let's get to it. So let's start with a vision for the future. And let me just tee this up a little bit. A vision for the future of how insights can be automated to drive operations for a software-driven business. Now, an ideal customer for Bicycle is any transactional business, so retail, travel, logistics, etc. In this example, what we're doing is taking an online flower business that basically delivers to local florists. Now, imagine you're tracking errors for all florists that you're doing business with. So let's say you have 100 florists. That's basically 100 dashboards. And that's where the need for real-time and automation kind of comes in. And the first notification that comes in to your phone is basically saying there's a huge drop in bookings for a particular florist over the last hour. So that's both real-time as well as automated, because you're actually not looking at a dashboard to see this one. The insight also tells you, by the way, that Oceanside Florist is one of the top 10 highest booking florists. So that's actually going to have like a large impact. So now what happens after? What does the system do in terms of figuring out why this is happening? Number one, there could be a search for external factors on what are the factors that could affect. Could be search visibility, payment errors, etc. So we do that. And then there's no change in these errors. It goes on to the next step, which is basically starting to look at internal factors. So Nishant, next. And the knowledge base, which basically says, hey, the other factors that could be impacting are price and promo code, etc., and supplier inventory, bad weather, etc., etc. So then it does sort of like again, like a background investigation on what are the rates and with respect to historical values, is the weather forecast good, etc. And then looking at the history of what errors or what issues have been sort of happening, it then sort of recommends a notification next that basically then says, hey, this is a recommendation that I offer based on this. We could redirect bookings to a different florist, because this is the problem that happens again and again. And so that's kind of our vision for how operations for a software-driven business where insights can drive it. Yeah. So really quickly, let's talk a little bit about our initial set of customers who have really defined the product, who have defined the core use cases that come on top of our platform. So as I mentioned, our ideal customers are transactional businesses. So Priceline, Assertus, which is a logistics company, Urban Piper, food delivery, Big Basket is one of India's largest online grocers. So Sachin with Priceline is actually on our call on the webinar. He will talk about some of his vision in this area, and obviously they're a huge online travel aggregator. So that's our very excited and honored to have all of these customers basically defining all of our core use cases. So real quick about the problem we're solving. The problem we're solving is that analytical tools are not operational enough and operational tools are not analytical enough. Like, what does that result in? So the software team is basically looking at operational tools. And let's say it's saying, hey, I'm looking at all orders for all customers, and that seems to be okay, right? So even if you think about the previous example, if one of the florists having an issue is impacting a certain set of customers or impacting a premium customers who basically deliver from that forest, you will find that out only if you do sort of the analytics and sort of do all the ETL and everything else. That's probably like a week late or 2 weeks late, right? So that's basically what you see on the right 2 weeks later. But by that time, the damage is already done because a large number of premium customers had issues. The issues could have been located in a particular geo, particular city, or the issues could be related to a payment type. So all of these analytics that actually materially impact your business come in pretty late, and any insight that impacts your business positively or negatively is important, needs to be operationalized, and needs to be sort of like automated. So that's kind of the problem we're solving. And this is the reason why we built Bicycle. And obviously you'll see a demo, so you'll see some of the details. What Bicycle does is it basically sits on top of the investments that you've already made in the data layer. So it combines data from your event streaming platform and data warehouse. So event streaming platform makes it live. The data warehouse basically gives it the context to enable real-time insights, alerts, and automation. As you can see on some of the screenshots, instead of looking at dashboards, you will get a very, very specific Slack alert. And then that will let you drill down into the problems, the cohort of issues, something that those are meaningful that'll help you sort of like really troubleshoot your problem and figure out sort of what area the issue is within minutes versus hours that it takes with other tools. Also, it correlates all the events around it. So let me end my section really quickly with showing you the platform description. So as I mentioned, the two sources, streaming platforms, we take a variety of sources, as well as the warehouse, which is contextualizing. And if you look at the core functionality, we're ingesting events, we're giving you a layer to basically query and operationalize them. And then we have the anomaly detection system for all of the multiple dimensions in your business. And then eventually we give you a layer of automated insights that can drill down into other tools that can do automations, as well as notifications. So that's a quick intro, Mike.
Thanks, Bhaskar. Okay, up next, we've got Rajiv. Rajiv is co-founder and CTO of Bicycle. Prior to starting Bicycle, Rajiv was founder of Agiletics.ai and leader at Autodesk, Context Inc. and Pramati Technologies. Rajiv resides in Hyderabad, India. Welcome, Rajiv.
Thanks, Mike. So before we talk about real-time data, let's see how that fits into the modern data platform strategies that modern businesses are using today. And when we talk to customers, most modern businesses are already investing pretty heavily on a central data platform, right? And there are two primary sources of data for such a modern data platform, right? One is the transactional event data from systems of engagement, right? So as customers are interacting with your applications, you're collecting events that capture who did what when, and you're using probably tools like Segment, RudderStack, to collect this whole event stream and send it to the central data platform. The second source of data is really the business metadata, right? From the systems of record. This could be like my customer data from my user database. It could be product data from ERP, contract information coming from my CRM, right? There are numerous tools like Fivetran, DBZM that you use to synchronize this metadata with the central data platform, right? And you use a process like ETL that will contextualize this metadata with the events and send it into the central data platform. Now, on the next slide, we'll look at some of like businesses are, sorry, can you go back? Yeah, businesses are already deriving a lot of benefits from such a platform. It's become the single source of truth of all data within the enterprise. And because they're contextualizing the event data with all the business context, teams get richer insights into which factors are impacting business outcomes. And since the events are being streamed into the central data platform instead of a vendor silo, multiple teams are able to leverage this data for various use cases. So you might have some teams doing marketing automation and marketing optimization. You might have some other teams doing product recommendations and further analysis, all of them working on the same central data platform, right? While they're already deriving a lot of benefits, you can see there are some obvious limitations, or there are opportunities for getting more out of this data. The one obvious one is you've taken data in motion, which is you're collecting in the events in the stream, and put it to rest. And when we talk to customers on like what challenges they see and what opportunities they see in terms of leveraging real-time data, there are some things that come up pretty frequently, right? So next slide. So some of the common things that we hear are data in the enterprise today is very fragmented. Like we talked about, user database might have some part of the user information, but the rest of the information is probably in my CRM, and some of my behavioral data about the users is in some event stream. Now, for teams to really get maximum insights out of all this data, they really need to understand this whole architecture, the data architecture. And that really means that there are very few people who are able to leverage this whole investment, the data investment, and get insights out of the data. What they really need is a simple semantic data model that represents that business closely, which enables vast majority of the company to ask simple natural language business questions and get answers from the data. Right. The second challenge that we see is that while the business context, contextualizing the data with business context enables them to get richer views, because they are using some sort of a ETL pipeline, there's always a lag in the insight. And when the modern businesses are running by the minute and not hours or months, then such delays means you're either losing customers or delivering poor experience. And one of the ways to address that challenge really is, instead of doing an ETL pipeline, you do query time contextualization, where as customers are making queries on the data, we contextualize with the business context to provide the latest business metadata and latest insights. The third challenge we hear is that the businesses are very complex today, whether it's travel or e-commerce. Like, you might be having hundreds of carriers, dozens of suppliers, like, operating in thousands of cities, supporting different types of devices, application versions, and you can create multiple dashboards to visualize how each of these entities is performing, but it's not humanly practical to keep watching these thousands of dashboards to identify insights. And what teams really want is automatic anomaly and opportunity detection from all this data that is delivered to them instead of them scouring through different dashboards. Now, once we identify any opportunity or anomaly, the key is really to do this at scale. You want to automate this, right? And the automation could be as simple as, hey, create some ticket for a team, or if there are payment issues, switch the payment provider, or if there are some supplier issues, switch the supplier automatically. Or it could be even things like when we identify some insight, use reverse ETL and push this information into other business applications. Now, one of the last challenges is once we identify an anomaly or an opportunity, this is like one of the most underserved areas today, where like once I identify an opportunity, and it could be through some customer support issue, or I look at the dashboard and identify an opportunity in traditional systems, I have to go back to the data team and say, can you provide a data dump that I can then import into a spreadsheet and do analysis to identify why this problem happened, right? Because you know what happened, but you want to know why this happened. And what you really want to enable is an automated platform where your teams are able to drill down and identify what is causing the issue, or what is the commonality, or what's the opportunity really here, without having to wait for a data expert. So on the next slide, overall, right, what we are really talking about is the traditional tools are more analytical, and you want to become operational. So in an analytical system, you have lots of data. It's already there. And you can create dashboards. A lot of teams are spending a lot of time in creating dashboards, putting together dashboards, but there's no automatic identification of trends, issues, opportunities, right? And anytime you have questions, you need the expertise of someone who understands the schema, who understands the data structure, to be able to gather the insights out of this data. And on the tooling side, you have the software applications missing the business context, and business applications and tools missing the software context. On the other side, what you really want is an operational system that works out of this data in real time and identifies opportunities and anomalies and delivers them to you, instead of you having to watch different dashboards, right? And this is really meant, like, when it's completely self-service, all your teams can access this data broadly and drive actions throughout the company in an agile fashion. So that's why we built Bicycle. This quick overview of how Bicycle addresses this. Next slide. So basically, if you're already instrumenting your user experience to collect events into an event streaming system like Kafka Kinesis, Bicycle connects to your existing stream, contextualizes it with all the business context from whether your data lakes or different business applications, and creates a business model and provides a business catalog that shows you all the data that's in your system. And teams can then subscribe to insights, anomalies, opportunities of interest to them that's relevant to their function, their business, and then drill down into what are the factors that are driving that opportunity or anomaly, right? So this is more of a picture, but what we really want to do is show you a demo, and we have Nishant here to show the demo.
Great, thank you, Rajiv. Just introduce Nishant quickly. Nishant is head of product at Bicycle. Prior to Bicycle, he held roles with App Dynamics, F5 Networks, Brocade, Ericsson, BlackBerry, and Vargman Groups. Nishant resides in San Francisco. Welcome, Nishant. Look forward to the demo.
Sorry, I just couldn't unmute myself. Thanks, Mike. So Rajiv kind of gave a good overview of what a good real-time insight platform looks like. Before I get to the demo, I wanted to kind of cover some of the use cases. So we have been talking to a lot of customers in this industry verticals, which is travel, e-commerce, gaming, fintech, and logistics. One of the key theme that has kind of emerged after talking to customers in this vertical is that these customers in this verticals are running their businesses by the minute. And what is happening is that they are looking for insights which will actually help them optimize their top line. It is either it is profit or revenue in the real time. And that's the reason why, I would like to show how Bicycle would help them, the customers in this travel segment, this segments, to actually help optimize the top line. Before I kind of show you Bicycle in action, I'd like to get into some of the use cases for this industry segment. So let's discuss about travel. So when we talk to any of the travel companies out there, either it is an OTA company or any of the airlines, we see there are two sides of equations. So one is the supply side of equation, where there are suppliers like Galileo, Sabre, Fly, and there are carriers which are actually supplying a lot of inventory in real time to all these OTA players. And on other side, there's a consumers like us will go into OTA, OTA platform, book a car, book a flight, or book a hotel. So the way Bicycle would help this OTA players is that it is trying to kind of do a real-time anomaly detection and give insights into saying, hey, as in this example, that the all of your users, when they try to book a flight ticket from LAX to NYC, they are seeing an error. And what happens is that on the supply side, it's a very complex word. There can be thousands of different error types that might be causing this. So what Bicycle does is that Bicycle would kind of take this insight and help the any travel company automate and say, hey, let me switch off the to show the inventory of LAX to New York from Galileo on my website, so I don't kind of see more failed bookings coming in, because more the failed bookings, by the minute they're losing the revenue. On the top of this, what Bicycle does is that it tells you a story behind this failed bookings. Why is this failed booking happening? Is this failed booking happening for a specific city? It is happening, for a particular error type where you are running out of a ticketing quota with the suppliers. What's going on? So that's what more of this drill down is, that you will try kind of Bicycle will formulate a story for you behind this failed bookings and kind of tell you a story right away within minutes. So now let's discuss about e-commerce and fintech vertical. So when we're talking to customers in e-commerce and fintech, one of the common themes we see is that these customers are very much struggling with the payment piece. So if you think about the core business, right, it's a very complex core business. So there are different kind of products they list on the page. There are different kind of customer types. They are kind of either they have different loyalty levels. They are kind of selling the product to different platform types on either mobile, desktop, Android, and so on and so forth. There's so much complexity involved in the core business. And then they support more than 50 different payment types. But if you see an example, what's happening is that one of this e-commerce player is basically e-commerce company is facing, their orders are failing or the payments are failing specifically for PayPal on mobile. So Bicycle will be able to kind of monitor this in real time and actually, generate an insight saying that the bookings are being failed on PayPal and a particular mobile platform. So we were talking to one of these customers, and they kind of let us know that sometimes this doesn't pop up right away in their dashboards or any of the alerting that they have in place, because the overall revenue might not be impacted right away. But there's a slow drip where there are a lot of failed bookings, small failed bookings for PayPal over 2 weeks. And then when you look at the revenue for 2 weeks, you will see that PayPal was a major contributor in bringing that revenue down. So Bicycle would detect this in real time, and you can automate this insight and turn off PayPal on mobile device. Now, as I said, we also would tell you story behind why these failed orders are happening. Is it happening because you are running an A by B experiment in New York and you launched a new version of iOS app, and that has kind of really messed up all the PayPal transactions that are happening through that particular version of the app? So we'll be able to tell you that kind of story in the drill down. The last sector I want to discuss, the use case I want to discuss, is the logistic segment. So if you think about any logistic marketplace, it has two sides of equations too. So here I've taken an example of a logistic marketplace company which kind of has two sides of equation, where there are shippers who want to move their cars from point A to point B, and then they advertise on the load board that, hey, these are the loads for the shippers, and the carriers will in real time pick up that or sign up for that load and move their cars from point A to B. Now, in between, this logistic marketplace company will take a commission. So what they want to know, or they want to monitor in real time using Bicycle, is which routes are being profitable. Are the number of orders going down for a particular route when cars are moved from San Francisco to LA or Boston to New York? And then they want to understand that what's the story behind it if the profitability is dropping for certain routes. They also want to do automation for some top 10 routes, and they want to kind of automatically open a ticket for an operations center and say, hey, the profitability for San Francisco to LA is dropping. and I want to kind of really, investigate what's going on. Is number of carriers going down, number of orders going down, or we are paying a lot to carriers and taking much less from shippers, and that's the reason why our profitability is going down. Can you tell a story behind why this profitability is going down? And Bicycle is able to do that within minutes. So this was a few of the use cases which kind of highlights that all of these customers in these segments, they want to in real time optimize the top line. And they are looking for, because they're running the business by minute. So let me jump to the demo and show you Bicycle in action. Okay. So the screen that you are seeing in front of you is specifically our data onboarding screen. And intentionally we have designed it in such a way that you can go from data to insight within few minutes. And why we have designed this way, and why within minutes we want you to go from the data to insight. So when we talk to the product teams and the data teams, so the product teams are basically interested in insights in real time, and they're depending upon data team to provide that insights. So when we see that data teams, when we talk to data teams, they're struggling with a lot of issues when it comes to data. So they have to take the, as Rajiv also mentioned, that they have to kind of build all the ETL pipelines. They have to figure out the transformations. They have to figure out if the field is coming 100% of the time. They have to figure out which fields are useful, which fields are not useful, that will produce the insight that a product or a business team is looking for. We want to take all that complexity out. And so that data team are not actually doing all this grunt work, and they're not a services team for the data, but they're focused in helping product and business teams to get the insights that can help them optimize on the top line. So, but we are not stopping there. So one of the things that we have baked into a product from the get-go is a very foundational piece is something called, industry vertical context. So and I will show you that in action. So let's assume that, someone from e-commerce comes to Bicycle and they kind of say, hey, I'm an e-commerce. The first thing we will ask you is that, where should we source the data from? We have support for all the leading event streaming platforms. In this example, let's say you're bringing data from Confluent, and it's a very seamless integration. You put some details in, you test out the integration and say, hey, let's go to next. The next thing we are asking here is that, is there any other metadata that we need to bring in to actually bring more context to data that is coming from your Confluent platform? For example, you might have merchant IDs coming in Confluent, but you might not have the merchant names, that are coming in the Confluent. They're only IDs. The names are mapped to that IDs in, let's say, your Google BigQuery, Snowflake, any of the data warehouses out there. And there might be other contexts, like this particular merchant is an enterprise merchant. This merchant brings me more than $1 million revenue over the entire year. It's all the static metadata sitting for that merchant in some database or data warehouse. So we are going to connect to, in this example, Google BigQuery will bring in all the context for the merchant from Google BigQuery. So I'm testing the connection and saying, hey, the source is added. And here you go. Within seconds, what we did was, we applied that in e-commerce industry vertical context, and we figured out that all the data that is coming out of Confluent Kafka, these are the few things for which we can tap into. That there's data about merchant, there's data about payment gateways, there's data about shipping partner, and hey, by the way, the data that is flowing in is about all the user searches, all the cart events, or all the payment events that are happening. So this is right away telling you that what kind of insights you can start monitoring. Let's say you like all of this and you say, hey, I want to kind of really now go and model the data. So once you press that initiate, this should come up within seconds. So what Bicycle did was that once it understood that, hey, these are the entities and these are the actions that are coming in this data, and it is saying that, hey, let's model this data. So what we did was that we look at all the event sources and we kind of said, these are the Bicycle event type we are recommending. So you can go and preview the data. Now, if you think about it, normally the data will be in either JSON format or any kind of complex format. What we make it is very presentable. We kind of look at all the payment data, and you can see all the fields that are coming in, all the sample values that are coming in, and kind of just play around with it and say, hey, is all data coming in all the time before you start modeling it? Let's say you just look at it and you say all the data looks good, and you want to accept the payment data. And I kind of said, hey, there are 11 business fields that are very important. It seems like that from the vertical context, we kind of figure that out. And these are the entities. And it will ask me to verify the fields. And I say, I want to pick up these fields because there can be hundreds of fields, and you might be looking only few fields to kind of do analytics or insights on. But let's assume that I'm going to pick all the fields. They're all important fields in the payment data source that are coming in. And what it did was it recommended all the KPIs right out of the box that, hey, based on our industry knowledge of e-commerce, these are the suggested KPIs that you can monitor. And these are the suggested KPIs on which you should do, you should set up your alerts on. So now I can look at a particular alert, and I can kind of look at the configuration, and kind of from here, I can just have to hook up my Slack, and it will start sending me notification. Let's assume that you're like, hey, yeah, I think this is great, but I want to monitor something very specific. So we have an experience here, which we have catered for specifically for business in the product persona. These are the people who are not too intimately involved with the data itself, but they are very much knowledgeable about insights that can actually help them optimize their business. So let's say an analyst or a product person or kind of some kind of business person comes to this kind of an experience and like, hey, let me understand something about merchants. I want to look something for the payments, and I want to look at all the insights specifically for amount which is only greater than, let's say, 200. So I want to monitor all the payment transactions which are more than 200. And then I want to kind of only look at payment, let's say payment methods for this transactions. But I want to only group it by payment method specifically. So now what it is saying is that for all these merchants, you are receiving around 50,000 credit transaction, 30,000 Samsung Pay transactions, so on and so forth. Now, right away, I want to operationalize this. What it means is I want to receive an alert on this, and automatically our anomaly detection platform figures out what is normal for Samsung Pay, day over day, week over week, or hour over hour. What's a pattern looking like for a set of merchants you're asking this data for? And then it will, or you can also fall back to the manual alerts where you can actually set up your own values and say, if I see a 3% rejection rate hike in last 1 hour, I want to look at an alert. Now you can set up, either automate the insight. You can say, if this happens, I want to create a ticket, or I want to get notified on Slack. And then if you have Slack hooked up, you will all start seeing all the Slack channels right away here on which you want to send the notification to. So we are evolving this experience with the power of GPT-3 and 4 that will be coming out. The way we envision this experience to move forward in future is that we recommend you by looking at your data saying, hey, these are the insights you should be monitoring. These are the deviations we are seeing. So we will recommend that by using the GPT and LLM models in the back end in the future. Now, let's say you receive one of the alerts like that. The alert looks like this. If you see here, it's a lot of business context. It's saying order count is going down. The maximum drop happened for the Nike, and there's a few other merchants that are impacted. Now, what you want here is that when you receive this kind of alert where all your top brands are impacted and order counts are going down, you want to quick away know the story. When we talk to a customer, in order to just figure this out, why is this happening? Where is this happening? They take countless hours, sometimes days to figure that out from their either log data or some other events platform that they have. But what we have built is a triage platform from grounds up, which will look at all the interesting events that happened related to this alert, and will start finding pattern in that events itself. So it will present you with a story, a complete story. That the story here is that all this issues are happening with Allbirds and all other customers, specifically when all the payments are going through a Stripe payment gateway. They're happening majority of time in Canada, and you can see the deviation compared to the previous day. So it will kind of compare to the previous day and tell you like, hey, this is not normal, and that's the reason why all of this merchants are impacted in this time frame. Now, what you can do is that if there are certain dimensions that are in your mind already around which you want to tell the story, then we would be able to kind of create that automation for you or a triage runbook for you on the screen, and saying that whenever something happens, always analyze these 5 fields. It might be geo, platform type, or whatever the 5 fields are, and tell me a story about it, that is this 5 fields in combination of each other are impacting my merchants. And so this will save you hours worth of work. So I think this is the wrap on the demo. Any feedback, comments, questions, would love to hear that at the end of the session. Over to you, Mike.
Thanks, Nishant. If you could just flip the deck back up, that would be great. While you do that, I'm just going to start introducing Sachin. Sachin is the Vice President of Data and Marketing Technology at Priceline. Prior to Priceline, he served in various leadership roles at Nielsen and Infosys. Sachin resides in Washington, D.C., Baltimore area, and we're really, really pleased to have Sachin with us today. We're going to be jumping into a Q&A session, so we'll get started. So maybe Sachin, just to kind of kick it off, maybe you could just do a quick intro, maybe talk a bit about your background and your role at Priceline. That'd be great.
Thank you, Mike. It's a pleasure to be here, first of all. Hello, everyone. I'm Sachin Menon. I'm the VP for Data and Marketing Technology at Priceline. I should say, having been associated with data and data engineering tools for about 2 decades, I've naturally become pretty passionate about it. I'm also very enthusiastic about what some of these modern technologies have to offer and how, as an enterprise, we can leverage it. Priceline, as many of you already know, is a leader in on-brand travel for 25 years with the mission to be one of the best travel deal makers in the world. Through our proprietary deals technology, we generate deep discounts on hotels, flights, and rental cars, cruises, and packages as well for travelers in over 116 countries around the world. By making affordable travel within reach for all, Priceline helps millions of customers each year to be there for the moments that matter to them. So that's our mission, that's our purpose that we serve in Priceline.
Great. So I know you've been a data leader for quite some time, across multiple businesses. I'm just curious, like over the years, what you've seen as the biggest changes in data strategy overall. How has that kind of impacted your role and what you do day to day?
In my view, I think one of the biggest changes in data strategy has been the shift in focus from collecting and storing large amounts of data to using that data to drive actionable insights. And this change has had a lot of ripple effects, if you ask me, right? There is now an increased focus in real-time data processing, triggering the need to generate proactive monitoring and real-time insights. Also nowadays, more and more enterprises are looking at opportunities to get more value out of their data, and as a result, adopting data democratization and treating data as a product. However, I think all of this has evolved only because of significant automation and observability across the data pipeline. So that's some of the significant changes I've seen in the last 5 years or so is what I would say. Until then, it was more about how can we batch the data and then generate insights in a reactive manner.
Great. I mean, I know you have a fairly large team working with you and for you at Priceline. I'm just curious, how do you get the team aligned around all this stuff? There's so much happening in the space. You want to sort of drive the company forward towards this data strategy. I know there must be a lot of just sort of learning and teaching and communication around what the strategy is. Can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, I think in Priceline, at least, I've joined Priceline 2-3 years back, actually. So there has been a focus on 2 areas. At least I have focused on 2 areas, especially. One is process and another is platform, right? So for the process, it was important to bring in the culture of data democratization. Hands down, that was the most important thing. It is critical for data teams to embrace decentralization and empower the end users with greater autonomy over the data. It was also critical to bring in solutions that focus on the entire customer journey. This has helped us embrace the culture of looking into data as a product, as I mentioned earlier, rather than as an asset or a service. Historically, we have always looked at data as an asset, which we safeguard. And now it's time we start looking into it as a product and we try to monetize it as much as possible, right? From a platform standpoint, one of our primary focuses has been on real-time data processing and self-serve analytics capabilities, right? Self-serve capabilities in general, if you ask me. And to achieve this, it has been critical to implement an enriched data platform layer that enables the teams that are closer to the data domain to get more value out of the data. We have also focused on adopting, I would say, the right tool sets to enhance our proactive monitoring, alerting, and reporting capabilities. So these have been some of the fundamental changes that we introduced or I have brought in from a strategic standpoint.
Okay. I know one of the big questions probably from some of the folks that are attendees today, and certainly I think you had to go through this decision, I've had to go through this decision, some former roles is around the build versus buy discussion. And data strategies these days and the architecture around it can be fairly complex. Deciding what stuff you buy and what stuff you build is often, a very strategic decision for the group. So I'm just curious, like, as you think about real-time data, the topic for today, how have you approached that decision around build versus buy?
I think it's a very critical, it's an important decision to make was, when we make a choice, right? It's always a question, if you have your developer community or the data team community that is, always willing to innovate, discover, and implement solutions that is, like the top notch. And there is always this business, focus where we want to get the solution as soon as possible to the market. The time to market is critical. So, from our perspective, from my perspective, at least as I hinted earlier, the one focus has been on real-time data processing, right? That is one of the key goals that we want to achieve. So, which is to moving from a batch ETL-based pool to an event-driven data streaming pipeline. That was one of the primary architecture goals. We have also given a lot of focus on data standardization by enabling centralized schema registries and all of those aspects. Now, it all depended on, if you look at the industry that we are in, the time to market and the total cost of ownership is what is key at which we can enable the solutions, right? So that plays a very huge role in deciding whether we should buy a solution that can enable us faster or take the time to build it, right? There is also a market or room for building solutions that are centric to the domain and the platform that we reside in. But if there are opportunities where we could buy solutions that can help us get to the market faster, I think we should choose between among these two, the buy option in those cases. As a result, enabling our end users as soon as possible, right? That was the primary goal that we had, to enable our end users as soon as possible with self-serve capabilities and tools. That has been one of the primary consideration in architecture, which has decided to, which made us choose, okay, in this case, we should choose a buy option. In this case, we have to choose a build option.
Yeah, makes sense. As I get to the last couple of questions, just to the audience, we have a Q&A tab at the bottom of the Zoom. Please start feeding any questions you have, either for Sachin or for any of the leaders at Bicycle. We'll start to collect those. So next question is just around the benefits. The question that will always come up, whether it's from the CFO or other leaders in the company, is like, is the investment ultimately worth it? And what do we expect to see out of these investments? So how do you think of the benefits overall, whether it be monetary, customer experience, cost savings? How do you think about those various areas?
Yeah, I can name a few in general, right? Like, it's real-time pipeline and proactive monitoring doesn't need any socialization and PR around it. It's primarily alerting, and it has enabled us to make faster decisions. Straightforward, right? It has helped us to make decisions faster, and we are certainly able to move much faster and adjust to the market trends, because in an industry like ours, which is the travel industry, there's a lot of competition in the market. We cannot wait for a day to certainly make a decision as to or adjust to the market trends. We need to make decisions faster as soon as possible. So we're able to target marketing campaigns in a more proactive way and adjust to anomalies in a more agile fashion. So, as I mentioned, the platform as any platform that we choose, in this case, Bicycle and the Google infrastructure and the streaming capabilities that we have has helped us significantly in adjusting to the market campaigns as soon as possible, wherever applicable, right? And product and business operations team, if you look at it, are more equipped now to focus on new feature rollouts rather than monitoring and reacting. As I mentioned, historically, there was a trend where we had to wait for the, in the data industry itself, we had to wait for the data to populate. The next day morning is when we would have taken an action on what happened for yesterday and then prepare for tomorrow. So that's the difference now. We are actually now acting to what is happening in the market immediately and reacting to it immediately in a proactive manner. So
that's great. Okay, closing question for you. Thoughts on AI? Obviously, a very, very hot topic right now, as some of these big solutions are in the marketplace. And what does it mean to you? Like, what does AI mean to you? What does it mean for your work ahead for the next couple of years? How do you prioritize it within the other work that you're currently doing?
I mean, personally, I have a lot of passion for AI, but if you ask me, there are a lot of areas that AI has and will influence travel, right? As you know, a lot of the recommendations and personalization aspects is already powered by AI, and it's only going to enhance it further, right? If you look at a customer journey, especially from a travel OTA perspective, from search to booking to post-booking support, we certainly leverage AI in almost all of these areas. It's already in the market. It's already in most of these areas, supporting it in whatever fashion. But one thing that needs to be remembered from, and at least from my perspective, is that the quality of data and the data products that we build to power AI is equally critical. If you don't get the foundation right, it's only this much that AI can do. It's not going to go outside and create a pseudo set that doesn't make any sense. So it's only with underlying data and infrastructure that AI can excel, is what I would say. That's my personal opinion about how it's going to influence. If you focus on the data foundation, you could build magic out of using this AI capabilities.
Completely agreed. Great. Well, Sachin, we really appreciate it. If I could ask the rest of the speakers to turn your videos on as well. We're going to take a couple of questions from the audience. And the actual first question is from Nishant. Is Bicycle based on streaming analytics, analyze and then store? If so, what is the maximum window length?
Yeah, so I think our primary source of events is streaming analytics, and the way there are two parts to it. That when the event comes in, and we kind of try to, if there are certain KPIs that you're interested in, we try to metricize that, and we have metric store where we keep it for more than a year. The events we keep it for at least few months, so that we can actually look at the trends either month over month or week over week. But obviously, Rajiv, you can add few color to this from the architecture point of view.
Yeah, absolutely, Nishant. So just expanding on what you're saying, so we connect to the existing event streaming systems, and as the data is coming in, we are looking at the data and looking for anomalies and patterns. But to identify what's the baseline and what's the pattern, we need historical data and historical metrics, like how many orders am I getting from this city, or how many orders am I getting for this airline or this product. And for that, we as the data is coming in, not only are we looking at is the current value anomalous, but also storing historical value for history, like we store it for over a year, so that we can compare, saying compared to last Christmas or last Thanksgiving, how's our performance today, right? So to answer the question, yes, it's based on streaming analytics, but to retain the history and to understand the pattern, we store like high cardinality metrics, like how many orders or whatever is the metric you're looking at the product level, at the city level, etc. In the metric store for a long time.
Great. Rajiv, I'm going to ask you like a part two to that question. It says, does Bicycle have any proactive components along with the reactive part, like, for example, predictive analytics, like detecting a trend that may result in an anomaly and alerting before the bad event happens? So kind of the pattern detection. Can you speak to that a bit?
Yeah, so the anomaly detection really is predictive analytics, right? So what we're doing is that we predict the baseline, saying whether it's next hour, next minute, how many orders or how many, what's the value of the metric that you're looking at. And that's really the baseline. And when you're going above below the baseline, that's when you have an issue. So the underlying system is really doing predictive analytics in terms of what's coming next. The current focus has been the short-term prediction in terms of what's the next expectation, but we are working with customers in terms of identifying use cases for a longer range predictions.
Great. Okay. Next question for Bhaskar. This is around the overall commercial model. And the question was around whether it's a pay-as-you-use model similar to some other products in the marketplace. Is there an on-prem solution as well?
Yeah, so Bicycle's pricing model, just to sort of introduce that, because we hadn't talked about it yet. So Bicycle's pricing model is based off of events, right? So events could be the number of logins, the number of add to carts or searches or bookings. So you could choose to basically say, hey, I don't really care about searches. I only care about bookings because they're more important. They're more sort of revenue critical, etc. And so we will charge only for the bookings. Even with the bookings, if you're like, look, I want to just only focus on a particular segment of customers, only on a segment of partners, then we could just use just get those events in and charge only for that. So we do have a pay-as-you-use model with respect to the number of events that are coming in, and that's basically how we charge.
Great. All right.
On-prem. Yeah, let me just wrap up the on-prem thing there as well. Yeah. So our default is we run on GCP, but we're Kubernetes based, and so if we basically need to run on Azure or AWS, we can pretty easily do that by deploying in your sort of own instance. Yeah.
Great. Sachin, I got a zinger for you. With AI developing at the pace that it is right now, do you see business acumen being potentially more important than technical knowledge?
That change has evolved automatically, not just with AI. I think even before that, with the data mesh evolving into future technology, I think a product mindset or business mindset, and from the data perspective, is already getting there. It's yes, technical knowledge is where it will get us to implement things, but what are we trying to solve is basically what I think the business acumen and product mindset will give us. So yes, it will eventually get us to that, looking at it from a product aspect perspective.
Great. All right, question for Nishan. Can you describe how your customers' Slack alerts and triage steps have evolved since implementing Bicycle?
Yeah, absolutely. So on the Slack alerts, I think the approach that we have taken is that a Slack alert needs to basically come more from a business entity or business context point of view that you're looking for. So as I showed in a demo, if number of orders are going down, we don't want to have Slack alert from an error that is causing it or so on and so forth. We want to say, hey, number of orders are dropping and this set of merchants that you care about is what is facing these errors, right? And maybe these are top cities contributing to it. So we want to kind of really come from a business point of view, what makes sense for the business or the product teams. From the drill down piece, I think the way we have built it is, and the way we have evolved it is that's where the customer struggles, that once you really have that business specific alert, you still want to understand the story behind it. You want to answer a lot of whys behind it. And I think that's where we have built a more differentiating triage platform, where we look at all this interesting event and tell you a story right away within minutes. And you don't have to spend countless hours looking into logs, correlating different dimensions of businesses to figure out, is this happening for a particular slice? It's a systemic issue. It's a slow drip issue. We tell you right away saying, hey, this is what is going on. So that's how a customer can react to something within minutes and not hours or days or weeks. And that's a huge difference that we see with Bicycle compared to other tools in the market.
Great. Thanks, Nishan. Bhaskar, I'm going to ask you the final question and maybe just ask you to wrap us up. We're a couple of minutes to Eastern. How would you use Bicycle along with other traditional BI tools? We get the question a lot when we're speaking to prospects around, hey, listen, I'm using these different tooling internally. I have Tableau, I have Snowflake, I have all these different tools. Where does Bicycle kind of sit in that mix of products?
Yeah.
And does it replace those tools? Is it an add-on? Maybe you can share a little bit of your thoughts there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can probably take the examples of what you just mentioned. So obviously, as we mentioned, we are sitting on the intersection of streaming platforms, like Kafka, etc., and warehouses like Snowflake. So obviously, we are consuming data. So Bicycle is a data product, not really a data platform, because the data platform, you still have to do all the hard work, write all the code, and figure out what to do with it. So number one, it's a data product that's sitting on top of streaming platforms as well as warehouses like Snowflake. The other example you gave, Mike, was also important. Tableau, right? So Bicycle is not meant. It's not a super general purpose, BI platform, as in it'll do all sorts of BI use cases. We focus on transactional events and giving you context from it, and how do you sort of really work through all of the insights in real time. So if it so happens that some insight that we send you in the drill down process, you need to look at, let's say, supplier dashboards or inventory dashboards or warehouse dashboards, and all of those are in Tableau, you would then go from Bicycle and drill down into those dashboards, because that's not our core capability. Our core capability is looking at insights coming in from transactions. So that's how they coexist. So hopefully that makes it clear.
That's great. Well, I just want to take an opportunity to thank our speakers, our special guest Sachin, as well as all the attendees to the event. We had a nice turnout. We're available for questions. If it's about Bicycle, that's great. Please reach out to us. If you have questions about just your overall real-time data strategy, you've got some really smart folks here that have done this before, understand the application monitoring space very well. We're here to help. And if you're interested in the product, we'd love to speak to you as well. Don't forget to visit bicycle.io. That's our website. You can book a demo. If you want to do a more detailed demo around the use case that you're interested in, we'll come back to you and sort of customize it for your industry, for your company. And at the end of the day, this is about getting better, providing a better service for our customers, and driving revenue and saving costs. All the things that our companies want to do. So thanks again to everybody. Have a great day, and hopefully we'll do this again soon. Take care.